In today's video, we're going to be covering buying Bundesliga team of seasons before they go out of packs. So, just before the video does start, a quick little ad on a trading service I offer over on Twitch. For the cheapest premium trading service for just £4, €4, or free with Amazon Prime. You'll get yourself daily trading and investing guides covering both Xbox and PlayStation with an array of different techniques depending on your budget. I've been trading for over 10 years, making over 100 million on multiple titles, and recently making over 10 million in the first month for the last 3 years. So in today's video, covering the Bundesliga team of seasons before they go out of packs, we're going to be talking about what Prem team of seasons rose out of packs last week, what Prem team of seasons dropped out of packs last week, where are the exact cheapest times, aka this hour to this hour, and finally we're going to be talking about what Bundesliga players I recommend as an investment. So I've gone through every Premier League team this season and I've gone and fished out all the ones that rose, so let's have a little look at them and see if there are any trends. We start off here with the likes of Zinchenko, who went from 53k all the way up to 67k in 2 days, which is actually really impressive. We then get to Reece James, who was 54k and rose up to 60k, but then proceeded to drop after Saturday. We then get the Bruno Guilherme, who was 197 and went up to 205. We then get to Casemiro, who was 85 and rose to 90. And finally get to Trippier, who's 41 and rose to 49. And since has held / even dropped. So these are the only ones that rose out of about a team of 18. The rest of them basically drops. The more expensive you are, basically the more you dropped. Now it's interesting because actually every card that was 200k and below rose on the Friday, apart from the likes of Harry Kane, who on the Friday dropped. So that's a bit of an interesting trend because Harry Kane was actually the most used team of the season out of every one of the Premier League team of the seasons. And all the other players that did quite well were also highly used players, but Harry Kane was the only one who went down. Now, I don't think there's anything too obvious. I mean, maybe you could blame it on the Marco Reus SBC, but I do just think that is a bit of a weird trend and potentially something that could catch us quite blindsided when it comes to investing in the Bundesliga. But the overall trend was the cheaper you were, the more you rose. So Zinchenko, one of the best performing, was one of the cheapest team of the seasons. Trippier, one of the best performing, was one of the cheapest team of the seasons. So one of the ways how we can see how weakenly demanded someone is by going over to Footbin, going to PGP, then going and selecting the specific team of the season that we're in, and clicking on this, and this will basically show us how many games are played with each player. Well, we can see right here that Ramsdale is all the way down here at 368,000 games, whereas we can see that Zinchenko was used significantly more. We can see that Odegaard was used, I mean, relatively significantly more, but he was one of the least used ones, and in fact there was no one below him that actually rose in price. So all the players that rose were, more used than the likes of Ramsdale. And we can do the exact same here for the Bundesliga by going into the Bundesliga. Now we won't look too much into the players, but what we can see right here is the least used players are players like Hoffman. So as a result, Hoffman will probably replicate Ramsdale and as a result not do that well out of packs. So now what I've got for you guys is basically the hour by hour and when these cards were the cheapest, aka when you guys are going to go and look at buying the Bundesliga team of seasons, presuming they're going to follow the same trend. So Trippier was the cheapest between Thursday 6 PM, so today after marquee matchups, all the way through to Friday just before they came out. Then the Bundesliga came out and that's when we saw the rose. If we add to the likes of Odegaard, we can see the same sort of trend right here where he was the cheapest. Here's marquee matchups, dropped after marquee matchups. We're seeing about 10 PM on the Thursday, cheapest all the way through to Friday. There was a little bit of panic selling Friday after 6 PM. Which you can gamble on happening, but I'd say it's a little bit risky. And then they just rose and rose and rose. We then get to the likes of Reece James, which again would do the exact same thing. Dropped after marquee matchups, no reason to really buy earlier than 9-10 PM. Then he dropped, held at 55, did drop to 50 for 1 hour, and then rose all the way up there to 60. Finally, we can do the same with Casemiro once again. Dropped after marquee matchups. Again, there was panic selling before 6 PM on the Bundesliga team of season, but then he rebounded. As I say, you can gamble that, but the problem is if they don't drop then, well, that was your last opportunity of buying. So I think the best thing is just look for around about 10 PM to, you've got basically until they go out of packs. And the Liga go in packs on Friday. So the one thing I will just say before we do move into who I recommend buying is I can't guarantee that the Bundesliga will be as demanded as the Prem. That's because the Prem is the most followed league in the world. The Prem is the most common team, like people use in weekend league anyway, in the whole of FIFA, whereas the Bundesliga is less popular. And we can see this because last week when you needed to use a full Prem team, none of the Prem specials really rose. Whereas this week, when you needed to use a full Bundesliga team, we saw so many Bundesliga specials do well, and that's because people just don't own Bundesliga teams in the first place, unlike they own Prem teams, which as a result means after Bundesliga team season, the buying of Bundesliga players for your team may not be as popular as the Prem. But if you're happy to go and gamble, let's say maybe 20-30% of your coins, let's go through some of the best Bundesliga investments to go and make. So we'll now head back to this, which is the most used players for in the Bundesliga. Now, the first thing we're going to go for is we're not going to go for anyone above 200k. That's because, like I showed you on that graph, the cheaper the player, the better they perform. So the first player that I would say is a very obvious shout is the likes of Kolo Muani, and I feel like this makes sense. The guy is French. French players fit into teams really well. There is a lack of, I guess, French strikers of that sort of calibre at the moment, which is decent. And again, I'll be honest, I've used this card. He is actually really good, and he is my weekend league striker. So Kolo Muani would be the favourite player to go and invest in. We then come up with Sane straight behind him. Again, I think is a very nice little pickup. We then go to Kobel, and Kobel I don't actually think is too bad because we have both the likes of Guerrero and we have the likes of Royce as SBCs. We then go to Diaby, but Diaby's too expensive. If Frimpong is sub 200, he might work. The only worry with that is he is a little bit awkward when it comes to links because, of course, Dutch Bundesliga, you've only got the likes of De Ligt and then the likes of Leipzig. You do have Diaby, but that's about it. So there's the worries with Frimpong. And again, if you want to play it very, very safe, just keep it Kobel, Sane, Muani. Brandt's okay, but the only problem I have with Brandt is they did release a Guerrero. But I do like Brandt for the likes of him being SBC fodder more than weekly demanded. And honestly, I don't really see any reason to go any cheaper. For some reason, they also didn't put moments on there, but LaCroix is also being used very, very heavily. I mean, we can see 75k games. If we go into the Bundesliga, I mean, that's ranking literally the second most used one. So the best ones are Kolo Muani and LaCroix, and I feel like that has really good, reasons why they're good investments. The French, most popular league. We're not getting the Liga until next week. The La Liga, I think, will have a lack of French players, especially 70k players. I think we've got Condé, but I don't think he's looking at that price. We've got Griezmann, he's not really looking at that sort of price. So Kolo Muani and LaCroix, some of the best two. In terms of selling these cards, all the Premier League team seasons did go and peak Saturday evening on Sunday. I wouldn't recommend holding past that. Maybe if the player's SBC fodder, so Kobel and the likes of Brandt, but if they've risen nicely by Sunday, we see a 20-30% rise at least, which we did see on the likes of Zinchenko. I would happily sell them because we do anticipate them dropping Sunday onwards, which is what's happened with Zinchenko and co. But hopefully that's helped you guys with some Bundesliga team season investments before they do go out of packs. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow with a brand new investing video in the Saudi team seasons before they go out of packs.